Hi people, it's Archivist here, and today I'm going to be talking about Halo Infinite's multiplayer. And while I'm talking, I've got a couple of games here from my recent matches. In fact, I'm giving this commentary straight after, and they were quite intense matches, and I'm definitely trying to remind myself how to play Halo, so I'm actually a little bit, tired after playing them just because of how heart in my mouth these experiences were. I really was trying to push as hard as I could to win the objectives along with the rest of my team, and it's fantastic just how intense this game can get. I haven't really felt that way about a multiplayer game when it comes to objectives in a while, and I'll just say this straight away. I've come to be so cynical about playing with others online in these objective-based modes where I almost just think, yeah, they're not going to try. Maybe one will maybe grab the flag or go into the stronghold area, but by and large, I could try, but the rest of the team aren't really going to bother. Everyone's just going to focus on getting as many kills as they can. But honestly, the community so far has really impressed me with their dedication to actually trying to capture the objective. Of course, I've only been playing for today, and maybe if I gave it longer, I'd get more bad experiences, but in pretty much every game I've played so far, I've felt that my team have genuinely tried to win and weren't just out for personal glory, which is so refreshing, and I hope that's the experience that you guys are having as well. My condolences if it isn't, but I think that comes from my recent play time with Call of Duty Vanguard, which I've also been playing recently, and I'm a big fan of domination, but the thing is, it always feels like my team just don't care about grabbing the objectives, they just want to get the kill streak. So actually being able to play with people who do play the objective in Halo Infinite is fantastic. I don't know if it's just luck of the draw, but so far so good. And when it comes to just the feel of the game, the experience, the tactics required to be good at it, yeah, I'm really impressed. It's reminding me personally most of Halo 3. I think that's just the general mechanics and also the equipment you get in the game. I definitely remember you'd get like the bubble shield and the healing in Halo 3, and you've got equipment that isn't exactly the same equipment as Halo 3, but it's a similar idea where they're little boosts that will give you an advantage in combat. Some are quite minor, like you'll be able to dash quickly to the left or right for maybe evading a rocket blast, for example, but then others are a lot more powerful, like the overshield. And something I realised about things like the overshield is it's not just about grabbing it for yourself, it's also about denying your opponent, because if you go up against someone with an overshield, it's very hard to take them down unless you have multiple people fighting one person. So something I tried to do was, if I saw the overshield going in, I would give it my absolute all to get to it as fast as possible. And because if you don't use a piece of equipment, you'll actually drop it, I would just use it immediately just to make sure that my opponents didn't have it. I had a little bit of guilt because I knew that I might have been denying my teammates it, but I almost felt the most important thing I could do with an overshield is just prevent my opponents from getting to it, even more so than utilising it myself. Even though obviously I do use it myself, but you get the point. Like, it's a real interesting tactic that because you can lose equipment when you die, you want to get rid of it by using it so that your opponent can't take it from you. I remember hearing that in a developer thing, and I did think that sounded a bit of a reach in terms of a tactical play. And for the weaker pieces of equipment, yeah, it's not all that. But for something like an overshield or a camo, you really do feel like I need to use this. And there's smart things like when you have the overshield, you can't just instantly activate it, which would make that tactical play a little bit easy. You do take a moment to pull it out and then sort of attach it to your chest. So yeah, there's some smart tactics there, but I've zoned in really precisely and quickly there to equipment. I just wanted to make the point that to me personally, it feels the most like Halo 3. Now, Halo 3 wasn't my absolute favourite Halo. I think Halo Reach was, but in many ways that's just to do with when it came out. Halo 3 was the first ever multiplayer game I played online on a console. Was it ever? I think I probably played some other games on PC before that, but it was certainly the first console online game I played, and I just didn't know the ropes, so I couldn't really compete at all in any way. so I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I could have done, but by Halo Reach I felt like I was getting the hang of it. I feel a little bit like that again, just where Halo is so different in the way you play it to something like Battlefield or Call of Duty, that I'm having to remind myself of the tactics, like doing retreats where you cover yourself with a grenade. So if someone comes around a corner and your shield is quite low, they will then walk over your grenade, they'll take damage, and then you can retaliate. Jumping around is good so that your opponent struggles to shoot you, but then you have to carefully maintain your aim on your opponent. And that's something that I think is fantastic about Halo, is the higher time to kill, which I know so many people do not like. Some people love ultra low time to kill, where you see an opponent one moment and then in like a nanosecond they're dead. But to me, I almost like the dance that you have to do when you have a higher time to kill, because you have to wear down your opponent's overshield first of all, which is most effectively done with energy weapons, but you can do it with a standard ballistic weapon, and then you need to actually take down their health behind it, which conversely is most effective with ballistics, but you can kill someone with an energy weapon. So there's this cool thing where you might have an energy weapon and you use that to take the shield down, and then you switch to a ballistics weapon, and then you'll very quickly kill them when they have no shield on. And I think one of the funnest tactics, it's been in Halo for a long time, and I can see people remember it, is you can charge up the little laser pistol, fire it at someone, instantly takes their shield out, you switch to the pistol, headshot, and they're dead in seconds. So although yes, the time to kill is relatively high in Halo, there are absolutely ways that you can get around that. I mean, just if you have two players and they both chuck a grenade at once at one player, it will pretty much kill them in one go. And that happened to me a couple of times. And I think that's a thing we all feel with shooters, is that if you instantly die, that is frustrating, because especially if you didn't see them coming, there's that sense that you were given zero chance to react. Like, there was nothing you could do other than maybe know they were there, but sometimes there's no ability to know they're there. You just die instantly with no ability to react. But because the time to kill is a bit higher here, it means there is at least a chance that you might feel them shooting you behind, and maybe you can turn around, throw a grenade, run behind a corner. It still is obviously a massive advantage if you get someone unprepared. If you shoot them in the back, you're going to be able to get a lot of their health off before they can retaliate. But it is at least a chance is there. You won't have a situation, for example, where if you're in a window, and in Call of Duty, let's say for example, if you had two players at a window, a sniper could easily just kill that player before they had any chance to move. But in Halo, unless someone has a sniper, which is a power weapon and therefore restricted and only appears in certain circumstances, you're very rarely going to be able to just shoot someone out of a window. Most of the time, they'll get shot, but then know to react and move out of the way so that they can do a tactical retreat. So I find that that simple factor of the higher time to kill gives so many more interesting options in the game, which don't exist in so many other modern shooters. And I'm very glad to see its return. It's nothing new for Halo, it's been there pretty much since the beginning, but because Halo has been absent mostly for so many years, I'm playing it now and it feels refreshing, even though this franchise is technically really old. I suppose if you had been playing a lot of the Master Chief Collection, or maybe just continuing to play Halo 5 online, maybe the game will feel less fresh because it feels so quintessentially Halo that if you went straight from playing an older one to this, it wouldn't feel so new. Like, it will feel fine and you'll enjoy it, but it won't feel so refreshing in a way that it might feel to someone like myself who's been away from the franchise for a while and is playing the game and remembering that, yeah, this still works. Like, even though with Call of Duty 4 so many shooters move towards guns being aimed down the sight, quick time to kill, that wasn't necessarily an evolution, like a necessary evolution of shooters. It was just another path that was popular. This is still a very valid option. You know, we've seen it with Doom as well. Doom Eternal, for instance, a very modern game, but it uses a very old school style, but it's still fun. And that's the same with Halo. It's an old school style that just works. They've refined it, they've polished it, it feels balanced, it's fun, it's very competitive orientated. It's a great game. And there's, I think, a very good path of skill that you can build on. Headshots are heavily rewarded, especially, you know, the old favourite, the battle rifle. I pick that up whenever I can. Understanding where the weapons are on the map will give you an advantage. So as you play the game, it's not like you're going to get more powerful weapons and attachments like in other shooters. Instead, what evolves is your knowledge of the game and how to best play it. And I do think that is in some ways more fair, because if you think about it, if you're playing a game and the more you play, the better weapons you get, not only do you have better knowledge than newer players, you also have better guns. So what chance do they stand? At least in a game like Halo, it's a fair playing field other than the knowledge and the skill that the more experienced player has developed. So for the game modes that at least are around at the moment, I do respect the parity. You know, you've got maps that are, at least at my glance, they look fairly symmetrical, maybe perfectly symmetrical in some cases, and because you all start with an assault rifle and a pistol, and because weapons should, again, appear, I think, symmetrically, correct me if I'm wrong there, it's not like one team or one individual begins with this inherent advantage. You actually have to be good at the game to do well, right? And that's something that I certainly endeavour to improve upon. Now, even armor, actually, I was just thinking to myself, obviously, you do progress and you do unlock things, and those are like armor customizations, which I've loved previously in Halo, and now it's tied to the Battle Pass system, I believe. You can colour your Spartan easily, you can give them different sorts of helmets and such. But because there is an outline around players, it's not like there's going to be a colour, let's say, that will give you a camouflage advantage. So you're free to choose the Spartan look that looks best for you, rather than, you know, there being this particular look that would be inherently advantageous, and therefore, of course, everyone would choose it. So we should see a lot of variety in the way players actually look. In terms of stability, I'm really impressed. I mean, as I said at the beginning, it's a beta, and yet it feels so much more refined than other shooters I've played at launch when they aren't even in beta form, which is kind of impressive. Then again, of course, the game was delayed an entire year. I don't want to be too grumpy about that fact, though, because, you know, delaying this game was blatantly the correct thing to do. And although, you know, people will say that it doesn't matter if you release a game bad now, because if it's a live service, they can always improve it. Well, I would argue that if you release a game, like a high-profile game, in a broken state, the internet will never forget, and that stain on the reputation will never go away. Some games have miraculously, genuinely turned their reputation around, like just No Man's Sky is the biggest and best example, I think. But then you have ones that have sort of partially done it, like Battlefront 2, where it had this huge controversy at the beginning, and it absolutely turned it around to become a really amazing game. But a lot of people aren't aware of that, so they still think of it, you know, with the negative connotations it began with. And then even like Battlefield 5, I think is a similar case, if I'm honest. I think it really became something great, but because it started poorly, people just picture that. So I think it's a good thing that the game was delayed, because it means that when people play it, and, you know, as long as you're having the same experience I'm having and the same impressions I'm having, your memory of your first playtime with the game will be a positive one. And first impressions are so crucial. You know, you're gonna keep playing, and it's kind of like I'm trying to think of like Cyberpunk. You know, it's the easy example there, but that game came out last year. I played it for a bit, but it was very buggy. You know, even though I was playing it with Series X and the performance was okay, there's all kind of visual bugs, and I was like, I'm going to leave this game and come back to it. But, you know, honestly, like almost a year on, I just can't be asked to do it. So you got risks like that as well, where, you know, the interest in your game will just go away. So again, I'm kind of circling around the same point here, but I'm saying that I'm glad that 343 waited to release the multiplayer in a good state. It will be interesting to see what the campaign is like. I won't date this video too much by talking about it or speculating at length, because it is right around the corner now, really, just under a month away. I'm looking forward to it. Halo campaigns have always been something I've played through. There is no way I'm going to skip this one. Even Halo 5 I enjoyed to some extent, but for me nothing will ever top Halo 3's campaign. The dual scarab moment, it's just one of those video game moments I'll never forget, especially in co-op. So I would like Halo Infinite to be another fantastic campaign, But if it comes out and it's a disappointment, like maybe they were overly ambitious, let's say, with what they were trying to do with the game, it will be unfortunate, but at least we have a great multiplayer. And at the end of the day, that is where I spend most of my time. It's the multiplayer. I don't want to be an advocate for single player being overlooked. I really don't. But at the same time, multiplayer is where I spend the majority of my time with shooters like this. So the fact that they seem to have nailed it is very encouraging, and I can sort of wipe the sweat from my brow and stop worrying, because I was worried about Halo Infinite because I wanted it to be so good. But at least from the multiplayer side, I need not worry anymore, right? It's very fun. It'll be interesting to see kind of what the longevity on this multiplayer is, though. I do think they need to add more maps, alter the game modes and such, like in terms of like what you can play in the playlist. But with this being a beta, hopefully it's intentionally restricted, maybe just to get a feel of what it's like. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Halo Infinite's multiplayer. I do hope to talk about this game more. Like, I'm conscious I do tend to like talk about a game and then move on to the next thing, but I can already feel a certain resonance, I guess you could say, with this game, and I would like to continue talking about it. And if I can eventually get any good at it, I would, I don't know, sort of gameplay, tutorials, whatever, whatever I can think of, really. But yeah, as always, people, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time. Oh, and play Halo Infinite, it's free.